I laughed, I cried, I did all the things.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and we are back this week with another movie review. We are here. It is Oscar season, and we are continuing that celebration and trend on No Drama, Just Movies, as we are taking all the movies that are rumored and being talked about in this awards season and potentially will be nominated for Oscars, and we will review each and every one of them, or as many as we can, on the build up to the ceremony in March. Once again, we are No Drama, Just Movies. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Cameron. Am I desensitized to pain? Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil Stones on a Stoop Corwin.
Oh, that's right. And if you
You know,
haven't guessed from that little Easter egg right here, we are here to review none other than A Real Pain, written and directed by the one and only Jesse Eisenberg, starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. So let's just get straight into it. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz around this movie, especially as we are in the award season leading up to the Oscars. It seems that good old Kieran is probably likely to receive a Best Supporting Actor nomination for his role in this movie. We don't get a movie that's written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg often. It's been a little while. However, we're here now. So what were your thoughts?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think it's possibly my favorite film for a while. There's been some good ones and some I really, really, really enjoyed, but like this one is just it does like most things or everything right for me right now. And we only just watched it, but yeah, I would say it's like perfect for me. We'll get into like the specifics, but the broad thing is yes, top.
I mean, I think for the purpose of this review, and this will become clear later on, let's just go right now into telling me why it was perfect for you. Let's just go into it right now because I
You don't
want to
want to
know.
give like a broader.
I want to hear your thoughts first. I want to hear
Okay.
your thoughts first.
I think it's like it since we watched it a couple of hours ago as of this recording. I've been like thinking about this and just like dissecting what it means, and like during it I laughed, I cried, I did all the things. It was like touched me emotionally, but it also touched me here, a little higher. So I think that's what I want from a film. I want a film that like engages all the senses basically. Um, and yeah, the acting as well. You mentioned Kieran Culkin. I think he got a Golden Globe for his portrayal, a bit of performance. And I think it's absolutely deserved. Like he pulls you in as well. Like he's got the energy right, and I think he's very good with like both sides of Benji. Like he does the very like manic side, I think. That like, he's a kind of guy like grabs you and like involves you in a party, a game or something. At a party, like gets you out of the corner. But at the same time, he's also the guy who like, you know, cries, weeps openly on a bus after visiting a concentration camp. Like, and he pulls both of it off, and I think it's very moving, his portrayal as well. So
Yeah, I mean, I will piggyback off of that. One of the biggest things to me about this movie is Kieran Culkin. He is incredible, and I gotta admit, he is incredible. And we had this chat after watching the movie. In terms of, obviously, for those of you who don't know, once upon a time, good old Phil and myself were men of the arts when it came to acting, and we were actors, and we were talking about this from an acting perspective in terms of, how difficult this kind of role and text is actually to pull off, because there is a lot of subtext there, and I think that as a performer, you could get this, and you could really gloss over what's there, and he does it in this kind of very natural and casual way that still contains so much heart in it. That being said, my opinion of this movie is vastly different to, I think, the majority in that. I, I don't want to say that this movie isn't good because I think it is a good movie. I just don't think it got me. I think that's what it is. And I don't know if that's because there was times when I was watching the movie and I was trying to understand what the message is here, what they're trying to say, what it is that I'm meant to feel. And sometimes that can be a catch-22 because you don't exactly want to search for a feeling. You want to be there fully immersed in it and just feel it naturally. And maybe that was a problem for me. But I just, weirdly enough, and that's why, it was a bit of a gag. But when we started this video, my nickname, I said, am I desensitized to pain? And the reality is that I'm not. I'm not desensitized to pain. However, I felt like I was very desensitized to this movie. I think that it didn't make me feel the way that I think a lot of people have. And don't get me wrong, I could resonate with the pain that, you know, the two lead characters are experiencing, as well as, using that so well in terms of the backdrop of a real pain that did also occur in terms of the Holocaust and, taking both on board. But I got that. And there was times when I kind of understood that. I just don't think I truly ever really felt it. And so maybe I am a bit desensitized to pain, right? Like, for example, we talk about the Holocaust, which is a very sensitive issue. Um, but we have been taught about it so much. We've seen
Mm.
it so much. We've been exposed to it so much that it is weird, just like on everyday news. And I think that is part of also something I try and say in the movie as well, that, everyday news, every time you open our phones, there's something going on. There's something going on, but it's very normal, right? And even these major tragedies that took place, excuse me, in our past, even those, something like the Holocaust, something we've learned about continuously in school, at least for me, in school, in books, but not to say that I didn't feel that again, but I think that's the issue for me with this movie. I just didn't really feel.
Mm.
And that as a result, because of that, I maybe not just because of that, dare I say, I was actually a bit bored at some points watching this
Dare
movie.
you?
Yeah, it just didn't hit me, and it's unfortunate. But when I saw the trailer, I did feel that way. I watched the
There
trailer, I
you
did think to myself that I'm not too sure if the trailer didn't catch me, and unfortunately, it was the same with the movie. But I can still acknowledge the good that is represented in this movie. It just wasn't for me, unfortunately.
I think it's you can see it like different ways. Like if you go into it, looking at it as like a Holocaust film, I think it's harder to connect to it because of what you said. Like we are constantly bombarded with Holocaust and what the Jews had to go through, to the point where it's especially with a horror like that, it's hard to like actually allow yourself to feel that.
Mm.
But I think if you connect it to the grandmother instead, I think it might take another meaning. And it's something I thought about afterwards, like just these little hints that they have um, about mainly Benji and his relationship to the grandmother. That, for example, she died 6 months ago in the film, and he, I want to say, committed suicide. Took an overdose of pills.
Attempted.
Yeah. Wait, yes. Attempted to commit suicide, didn't succeed. Um, but at the same time, and then this whole idea of that I think they say that the grandmother, like 1,000 miracles had to happen for her to survive.
Mm.
So I think when they go, or when Benji goes to the concentration camp, or this is why he's basically going on this journey to reconnect with the grandmother, not necessarily with the history of their family in a broader sense, or with history of Jews. Um, but I think he just misses his grandmother, who, as he says, was his favorite person, and he wants to reconnect with her. And just this idea of standing in this place where she probably was, maybe in this concentration camp, and going through that and imagining what she had to go through.
Mm.
And also, I suppose, feeling that, like, because the whole film, I think, is about connection and making connections to other people and feeling like as close to her as he can now, maybe. And that makes him so emotional. And I think that's the part that got me. Just this idea of connecting with other people, connecting with people that are no longer there. And then obviously like allowing yourself to feel that
Mm.
real pain of loss and grief and yeah, that I think really hit me.
Cool. I mean, it's interesting you said that because I think that that longing and that sense of connection is something that I did pick up on.
Hmm.
Um, especially when, remind me of Kieran's character,
Benji.
Benji. There we go. Like when he's talking to his cousin, obviously played by Jesse Eisenberg, on many occasions does say, look, like you weren't like this before. Before you were
Mm.
much more in touch with your feelings. And I think there is this sense that, as you said, he is longing for a connection. He is longing for someone to really touch him and feel him, and I don't mean physically, I mean, from a more of an emotional sense, and to really be able to open up and grieve. And I think, when Danny was discussing when they're having a joint on the rooftop and he's saying, that, and also at the dinner, he's saying when he finally kind of like opens up, he says, like, I don't have time to like go through this process of feelings. And I think that is, but a bit more connects to a bit more of a wider message, or one of the wider messages in that movie, in that sense of that not just desensitization, but that idea of ignoring and not really feeling anymore and allowing yourself to, and the good that can come from that.
Mm.
But as a result, when that's not taking place anymore, when that's not happening, for those of us who are feeling real pain, we feel like there's not exactly an outlet. We're meant to be human beings, we're meant to be able to connect to one another, but when that feels absent, what do you do? What journey does that take? And that part I did get, and I did feel quite intrigued about that. Maybe this will require a second watch.
I just want to hit on that, jump on that really, on this idea of like feeling versus detachment and which one is better. And because I think that's like the ultimate question the film poses, I think, for me at least. And that's the part I love that it does have that philosophical question. Um, because like as far as I could tell, it doesn't come down on one side or the other. I think it lets the audience decide. Like we have Benji who feels everything, and his life is pretty much, down the drain. Like he's I don't know, maybe living at the airport, maybe just couch surfing somewhere. He's very much giving the idea that he's doesn't have a fixed abode right now.
Mm,
Um, and meanwhile, there's Jesse Eisenberg's character who doesn't feel anything, or not really, is very cold and detached. But he's got a family, he's got a kid. Um,
mm,
so I think like the question is for us watching it, like which one is better? Which person is happier? Do we want to, as human beings, do we want to allow ourselves to feel these emotions, like these strong, extreme emotions, even though they're painful, but still be human beings? Um, Even if that means like we might not get what we want in life. Or do we want to like just shut ourselves off from that, and maybe get what we want, like a good job, a wife, a family, but be basically robots that walk around like with without feelings? Uh,
mm.
I think that's an interesting question to ask,
It is.
especially in like the context of these like horrors of Holocaust and like these things that are going on right now. I mean, right now LA is on fire, and like how do we feel about that?
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I was wondering. It's a bigger question, but
It is.
I think it's an interesting question for artists as well, because you mentioned we are actors or used to be actors. Like for us, feeling is very important, and for any artist, I think, or creative person, feeling is very important. So even though it cripples you sometimes, just being that depressed and like feeling all these feelings about the shit that's going on in the world,
Mm.
you don't want to give it up because it would also mean giving up that artist side. It's yeah, maybe that's why it like touched me specifically, or why this is now my one of my favorite films because it
Yeah.
deals with that question.
I mean, I think the thing that you said at the end there was interesting, and that could spin off into a whole other topic. But you mentioned, for example, from an acting perspective, I think this can also be applied for everyday people. But if you need to be super in touch with your feelings all the time in order to be a good artist, I mean, that is a bit of a different question. But to address what you said there in terms of the wider question, um, I mean, how I would respond to it as of right now in this moment is this, like, not to get too philosophical, but it was, I believe, I think the Buddha who said, that pain is inevitable,
Mm,
but suffering is, essentially by choice. Um, and I think that you can relate that to this movie in the sense where if you're going about your daily life and you are suppressing trauma, then ultimately that will manifest potentially into some form of suffering, whether you know it or not. However, there are people who can experience, you know, pain and trauma, and through doing the everyday things that they do in life, they are able to, it does help them manage it. It really depends. I think that if you're suppressing pain, then that will build up into suffering.
mm,
However, yes, I think that it is a healthy thing to as human beings to allow ourselves to feel and to allow ourselves to feel these things and sit with our emotions. A lot of people don't do that. It scares a lot of people. And so, yeah, similarly to Daniel, the path to that is, well, instead of sitting with these emotions, because I'm absolutely terrified of what they could do, I'd rather stay busy. I'd rather not have time to do this. And that eventually, I think, can lead down that slippery slope. And then we see that manifest in the dinner scene in the movie where he breaks down and he
mm.
says, like, look, like, I've been dealing with a lot, seeing him, seeing, him at OD and what have you. Yeah, that's where I land for now. If that even makes
Yeah,
remotely
yeah,
any
yeah.
sense.
I like I just thought they're very much foils, right? They're very much like meant to be opposites of each other. Daniel's very much like suited and like buttoned up. Um, and this it was a fun like combination of characters that were like bouncing off each other, and especially with these actors in the roles because they had like Culkin and Eisenberg had an amazing chemistry, and I don't know like how much they like rehearsed for it and how they rehearsed for it, but I could feel like they just being hanging out with each other, right?
Mm.
It felt very natural just how they interacted and what they did. Um, and so I'm not like definitely I would say Culkin kind of overshadows Eisenberg a lot, but just because he's a bit louder, a bit like bigger. But I think as the straight man, Eisenberg was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Just like allowing himself, I guess, his ego to take a step back. Not that it's saying he has an ego, but you know what I mean, like that actor thing of I want the biggest part. Um, and yeah, like really allowing himself to be that character.
Yeah, I mean, final thing for me on that, like I do want to give props to Jesse Eisenberg because I think from a performance perspective, directing perspective, and writing perspective, like he knocks it out the
Hmm.
park. And I think that his writing really shouldn't be overshadowed in this. I think that, an actor is nothing without the material. And, credit to Kieran obviously for a fantastic performance, but that writing serves him a lot. And I think that that should be acknowledged. So yeah, huge props to Jesse Eisenberg, man, because I think that he should even obviously Kieran and well deserved is gonna get a lot of the praise for this movie. I think that Jesse Eisenberg equally should do too. Um,
I think for
those
the
are my thoughts.
direction as well, because like there were moments. I think the film knows very well when to be funny,
Mhm.
when to like allow the sadness to come in. And I think that just the atmosphere, how it plays with atmosphere is very well done. So I think that that comes from the direction as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, any final things we want to add before we go to our icy review score?
No. Let's go
Well,
to
okay. Well,
checking
let's
notes.
Well, in that case, I mean, let's go to our IC review system score. Obviously, we give a certain number of ICs out of 10. So, a real pain. How many ICs out of 10 will you give this movie?
Oh, all of them. Have some ices from other films as well, man. Like 10 out of 10 ices for me. Like it was, like I said, the exact thing that I want from a film, like that mixture of engaging head and heart, entertaining while also thought-provoking. Um, and I didn't find it boring at all. So yeah, 10 out of 10 ices for me. Slurp, slurp.
Slurp, slurp, indeed. Well, I'm going to go obviously a bit less. I'm going to go with six ICs out of 10.
What?
And the reason why I'm
What
going
is
with six,
on cold bastard?
I know the reason why I'm going with six ICs out of 10 is because though on this post discussion, it has been really fun delving into it a bit, and thinking about those wider questions. I think I still do have to acknowledge the fact that during this movie, I was a bit bored, and that I think that even though the message or some of the messages did get me, and obviously that has spawned into our conversation here, which has actually really been interesting for me, especially to watch the movie again. However, I still just can't get over the fact that like it didn't really entertain me. And I know not all the time you're looking exactly for pure entertainment. Of course not. And I'm a fan of dramas, but yeah, I feel like this slightly it registered for me, but it didn't get me. I didn't feel uh, yeah,
You're
completely.
feeling, I feel the pain of your 6 out of 10 now. Like, that
I know, I know.
is the
So
real, real pain.
that is the real pain. So I'm going with six ICs out of 10 for a real pain, and you're going with a marvelous 10 ICs out of 10 for a real pain. So that will do it for our review of Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain. Once again, we are No Drama Just Movies. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, share, drop down in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on this movie. Is it the masterpiece that everyone believes it is, or was you bored too? Or the bigger question is, did you feel a real pain? However, once again, we are No Drama Just Movies. My name is Cameron. Am I desensitized to pain? Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
Phil, Stones on a Stoop, Cohen.
Well, that's it. And that will do us here for our review of A Real Pain as we continue on our Oscars 2025 season. Look out for our next review. Once again, guys, thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys. We are No Drama Just Movies, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.